Hello again. The things about which I have talked so often on this channel, the increasing number of foreigners coming into the country and the fact that they behave differently from and commit more crimes than British people, are not limited to this country. What we observe in Britain is now a general trend across the whole of the Western world, including Canada and the United States. In 1975, I found myself in Vancouver and Edmonton, cities in Western Canada. The only minorities one saw in those days were the Chinese in Vancouver's Chinatown. Everything in those days was quiet and respectable with little crime. How times have changed. Canada is now as mad keen as Britain on inviting foreigners from all over the world to come and settle in their country. Take Edmonton, for example. In London newspapers, there are sometimes published photographs of convicted criminals, as in a roundup of recent cases. Anybody looking at such collections of mugshots will be sure to notice that the majority are either black, Asian, or have strange foreign-sounding names. This is especially so with the more bizarre and savage crimes. Often both the perpetrator and victim are foreigners. In the recent murder in London of a young woman called Sabina Ness, for instance, an Asian Muslim, her killer has just been convicted of murder. His name is Kochi Selamaj. He's an Albanian Muslim. This is the way things are going in Canada too. In the description to this video, I give a link to Edmonton's Most Wanted from the city's police force. Alberta has clearly changed a little since I was there, but mind you, that was nearly 50 years ago. At that time, the place was entirely white and very laid back and restful. Let's have a look at who these criminals are who are most wanted by the police in Edmonton these days. Click on the link and see what you make of it. First up is Saeed Osman, a black guy wanted for murder and described as extremely dangerous. Next is Quinel Hanania, another black man wanted for armed robbery and also very dangerous. Then there is the inaptly named Everett White, who is of course black and also extremely dangerous and wanted for firearms offences and robberies. Then we have Stefan Markovic, Eastern European, firearms, extremely dangerous. Johnny Junior Kalahassan, Asian looking, firearms, extremely dangerous. Ayub Ali, another black guy, attempted murder with a gun, extremely dangerous. Keyshawn McMillan, also black, dangerous, human trafficking and so on. Out of the 10 people, there is just one white Canadian, Cody McKinnon. He's wanted for parole violation, and there is no mention of his being dangerous. We see here all the features with which we in Britain are so familiar. The black people and foreigners are running around shooting people and so on, and make up 90% of the most wanted criminals. This is the pattern in Britain today, not only in large cities, but increasingly in smaller towns like Boston in Lincolnshire, which is astoundingly the murder capital of Britain. I know that some people see all this as the manifestation of a master plan to replace white people or something of that kind, but for my own part I regard a lot of it as just the inevitable and undesirable consequence of globalisation and cheap travel. 60 years ago, most people in all parts of the world simply stayed in their own countries and spent their lives there. English people seldom left their own country, unless there was a world war on or something. The same applied by and large to Indians and Africans. As international travel became accessible for everybody, it was only natural that people would start exploring the world, and once this happened and people in poor countries realised they could move to rich countries, it was inevitable that they would move to them. For good or ill, we live now in a global society, with many of the old national barriers and borders breaking down, or at the very least becoming porous, so people filter through them. I don't like this situation any more than other people, but it's a world historical trend, and as such there's very little to be done about it. Obviously, the doctors, judges and university professors in various countries do not see much advantage in drifting off to another country. They're doing well enough where they are. But the poor and ill-educated do. Some are actually starving in their own countries, and things cannot fail to be better for them once they get to Canada or Britain. This accounts in part for the fact that we seem to end up with the more brutish, violent and undesirable types in our own countries. It's also, the trend towards global travel is just one of those things. It is just a trend. There is also the fact that some governments are doing this deliberately. I don't think that there's anything sinister about it. They see cheap labour and they think it's a good idea to attract it. Ireland is doing this. The European Union doesn't help at all.